Welcome back, and our next session will be co-created by Solima CityMag, BODW's art and cultural partner, and it'll lead us to look at how exhibitions are utilizing technology.
We are more than happy to have expert designers and curators from different parts of the world to explore the importance of history and heritage in designing for tomorrow.
That's right, and one of them is representing an important cultural institution in Hong Kong, and I'm sure everyone is ready, so let's welcome them on stage. Art exhibitions are ever-changing and evolving in order to resonate with the public. Curators and exhibition designers are always looking for new ways to engage and inform. New technologies has opened up unprecedented opportunities for institutions to forge new collaborations and encourage renewed appreciation of our common heritage. The rise of the immersive experience has changed the way we think about interacting with art, culture, and history. How are museums and cultural centers developing these exhibition experiences, and how does technology allow them to innovate? Today, our guests will discuss the new immersive voyage through our common cultural heritage. Sylvain Roca is founder and director at Atelier Sylvain Roca in France. Since its founding 20 years ago, the studio rapidly took the form of a traveling unit of research, creation, and encounters. The workshop designs architectural arrangement for exhibitions around the world, notably at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, and the British Museum in London, and the Heritage Museum in Hong Kong. Since 2013, Yves Uberman has been co-founder of Econym, which promotes the conservation of cultural heritage, threatened by urbanizations, armed conflicts, and climate change. They developed a technological approach to archaeological sites through digital imaging and specialized in 3D rendering of cultural heritage sites in danger. Dr. Daisy E. Wang leads the Hong Kong Palace Museum Creation, Research, and Exhibition Planning. She has overseen 9 major exhibits with the Palace Museum, as well as ensured the safety of over 1,000 priceless treasures from the Palace Museum, the Louvre, and Hong Kong Collection. Our moderator will be Lavina Lee. She has 25 years of experience in the Asia-Pacific region and is the co-founder of Art Partners, an independent art consultancy that develops place-making art projects.
Thank you for joining us tonight, everybody. I'm here to first introduce our speakers tonight. So we have Yves Uberman, who is the co-founder of Econym, and welcome Yves to Hong Kong, who just flew in from Pakistan. And of course, we also have Sylvain Roca, who is the founder of Atelier Sylvain Roca, who also flew in from Paris. And we'd also have Dr. Daisy Wang, who just came around the corner from the Palace Museum. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And it's wonderful to have real live talks after so many years of Zoom discussions. So Yves and Sylvain has worked on several projects together, and they have a history of working together, and we'll be hearing from both of them. But first, I'd like to ask Yves to discuss a bit about the heritage conservation. Thank you.
Yes, so thank you for having me here. So we heard a lot yesterday and today about the changes that affect us today, and I would add that some changes not only affect our present time, our environment, our ecosystem, but also affect our past. By destroying, cultural heritage in many different ways. There is natural threats. So you can see on this picture, the rays of the water that, recover some places. This is a Roman site in Libya, a Roman port that is now underwater. There is desertification. In the next slide, this is Sahel, so huge areas now are completely empty. There is also human threat. There is, for example, urbanization. Massive urbanization that recover, next slide please, sorry. Massive urbanization that recover different layers of our history. And there is also massive tourism, there is conflict as well. So we are witnessing today an acceleration of the disappearance of our cultural heritage and our past. So I realized this like 15 years ago when I was working as an architect with archaeologists in Afghanistan. And I decided to dedicate, my work to this issue. How we can preserve, this cultural heritage. And you have to know that in Afghanistan, it's sometimes really difficult to preserve physically a site because of the context, because of the conflict. So I decided to focus myself on the digital preservation of sites. So today, it's becoming possible. I try to move with different technologies, with drones, with artificial intelligence. We are able to reproduce in a very accurate way, sites, digital twins that reproduce, the shape and the color of monuments, of landscapes, or of artifacts. So I decided to apply this technology on the ground and in sites in Afghanistan that were threatened by many reasons. So this, for example, it's a place in south of Kabul called Mesainak, where archaeologists found a dozen of monasteries with hundreds of artifacts built by a civilization, important civilization, the Kushan civilization, that is not well known by these archaeologists. And the sad thing is these sites, you can imagine, that is not accessible anymore today with the Taliban. But also, even worse, these sites will disappear completely after a few years. Why? Because there is a copper mine, a copper deposit beneath it, and there is an international company who want to dig, this site, and they will destroy everything. So the last thing that will remain from this site is this digital database we build. It's not just like a digital twin, it's also a full database, billions of points that reproduce not only the landscape, but also the architecture and also the details of the site. It's also a tool for archaeologists. They can localize all the information related to excavation, for example. And now, even if the site is not accessible anymore, there is still a scientific community who are, thanks to this digital model, still producing knowledge, about this Kushan civilization. So since that time, we decided to dedicate our work on this emergency, on this country in conflict. And to take another example, you may remind that a few years ago, there were a tragedy in Syria. The Roman site of Palmyra was completely destroyed. So at this time, we were on the field, in the middle of the conflict, trying, to document this destruction. But when we arrived on this site in Palmyra, the Temple of Bel, you can see on the picture, were already destroyed. So we saw, the temple lying on the ground. So we did, this 3D capture at this time, but we realized that it was also possible with artificial intelligence not only to reproduce, the landscape as it is today, but also the monument as it was before. And that's the beauty of digital. Digital can help us to go back in time. Using archive picture, for example, on the same algorithm, we are able to rebuild, the monument as it was before. So this is our work today, is trying to process, all the data we have from different sites to show how the site was before. So now we are a team of 20 people based in Paris with different skills. I mean, there is architect, there is archaeologist, there is engineer. We are working in 40 countries all over the world, not only country in conflict, but also everywhere, cultural heritage is facing, a threat. We try to act. And we are building like a full, a full database, digital database, with today, so far, 250 sites from all over the world, with a platform so the scientific community can access to this database to continue working on these sites. So a few years ago, Le Grand Palais on the Louvre came to us to ask if it were possible to make a collaboration for an exhibition. And it was our first collaboration with Sylvain, who is here. And we realized at this time, during, the creative process of the exhibition, how important was, exhibition to display to the public this work on these sites. And it was possible, to turn this scientific data into valuable content for the public in order to help, people to discover the beauty and the value of these sites that are not, accessible anymore in this place. So we are now a lot involved, in the production of exhibition because of that. We understood that, creating emotion for the people is something really important to help to involve, people in the preservation of cultural heritage. And that's the central point of our work now. It's to try to produce experiences to raise awareness and help people to act, concretely for the preservation of cultural heritage. And I think it's exactly this point we share with Sylvain Roca as a designer.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you were just sharing with me how important these exhibitions are to trigger action and change, and for people to be involved, emotionally and want to help with the preservation of these heritage sites. Thank you very much. And I think that maybe Sylvain can then elaborate how you're able to use this content, in your immersive exhibitions to help drive this experience for the visitors.
Yeah. First, heritage became thematic. We are designing a full exhibition more and more, but we have been designing many kind of different topics, which is a good thing because we have maybe a more poetic approach to some subjects. And sometimes exhibition can be scientific, sometimes artistic, sometimes historic, sometimes societal. And all this experience inspire us also to build a full visitor experience, not only restituting data and past, but also with Iconem to create a special moments we will have for 45 minutes, 1 hour, 1 hour, that we will remember for long. So that's the fact. So first I will play a little video clip about the kind of project we are dealing with. So yeah, to start with, I think we have to make a big difference between there are very important numbers of immersive exhibitions worldwide and in Hong Kong too now. So with Iconame, we make a bit of difference in between an immersive show and immersive exhibition. And the difference is, for us, immersive show is both to entertain, emotion, and enchant people to have a real special moment. And in immersive exhibitions, we are using large projection, digital tools to support a knowledge, to transmit a knowledge through emotions. So that's a different process, and every tool will be there to serve a scientific purpose and an emotional purpose. So that's something we really try to do in our project, especially the project we deal with together. And sorry. So also, why digital tools are very interesting and fitting experience in exhibition about heritage. Heritage with Iconame is often about sites, large sites. And so personally, I see really a special fitting in between new technologies and heritage because, as Yves said, it can bring to restitution, so things we can't see today and we rebuild. It can bring to making alive a period of the past, so you travel through time. It can also enchant you about sites that are partly destroyed, so you see how beautiful they were, so you love them, and maybe you will care them and have more commitment. And also that's a way to explore almost physically a site, not being there, because you can use many different tools, and you can yourself, and that's a bit a motto for me, is to explore a scenographic space at the same time you explore a topic. So I will go through several examples to illustrate this, and 3 projects with Iconame and 1 project with another company. So the first one, sorry, I tried to go back, but this is the one. The first one was the exhibition Yves announced, which make us meet, called Eternal Sites. It was a commission from the French presidency, and that's important because the goal was to show people that heritage is in danger, make them understand that's their heritage too, that's World Heritage, and so to try to make people more committed into their preservation. So that was really a strategic, diplomatic, scientific exhibition. And so that was our first meeting, and we immediately fit in our wish to create an architectural space supporting architectural for architectural sites. So as you see, it's like a landscape. You see the drawing, we will explore a landscape which looks a bit like a ruin, minimalist ruin that can support any kind of heritage, and with the introduction and the conclusion. And so this ruin will support, host different heritage every 2 minutes and 50. And in the center, we have very precisely chosen wonderful objects from each site we are talking about. So we were having both physical presence with real treasures and digital presence contextualizing also the object, and opposite also because some information on the objects explain the sites. So that was really a dialogue in between objects and digital. So we were having Palmyra, Khorsabad. So we see the object and the digit communicating. And really the people were happily surprised because they were fascinated. There were 4 objects, 15 long total digital movie, and they were sometimes staying 1 hour, 1 hour and a half. Because also they were very moved. It was very beautiful, aesthetically beautiful. And there was a remarkable sound design also for the exhibition. So they were like all silent. And plunging into, emerging into the pictures, emerging to the objects, and probably thinking about all of that because they were staying really long. And exploring the space, and also at some points, collective appreciation of the heritage, and individual digital tool like that tablet, which allow you to rebuild the Palmyra Arch to make it destroy again and to have comments about how it was and scientific content. So I have to accelerate a bit. So that was Age-Old Cities with Acronym 2 exhibition, 100% digital, showing different sites. And the exhibition was again conceived like an architectural space, so alternating places and houses like Arabic cities and Medinas and places. So it was really like a promenade, outside, inside, with different scales of informations. And yeah, sorry. Okay, two different layers that show that this system of city can be adapted to any kind of space because you have places and houses and you just move them. So that's Pompeii exhibition. I worked with Le Grand Palais. So we created a digital Pompeii, evocation of the city, mixing again real pieces and digital, and many interactive installations for every kind of generations. And it was really impressive because at some point we are recreating the eruption, and it was 18 meters high with a very good sound design. And here I like this picture because it shows architecture and digit, how it can work together. And we have a movie, quick movie. So that's really like a street of Pompeii. We imagine with a theater, 4 domus, houses, 2 ending panoramas. And it was really emerging the people in both digital, real, and unreal worlds. And now, just to finish, we have an ongoing project with Iconem in La Saline Royale in France, which is an amazing World Heritage site. And we are designing an exhibition experience in that space, which is also absolutely amazing. And it will deal with many different sites of World Heritage. And it's really open in spring, so welcome friends in spring.
Thank you. Such a beautiful site. So how important is it for you to visit the sites, in your creative process as you design these immersive exhibitions?
In many cases, thanks to Iconem also, I discover amazing sites, and sometimes like La Saline Royale, the experience will take place in the site itself, which is very important. So obviously the site becomes the character of the exhibition and the character of the thematic. So we both magnify the exhibition content and the site itself. We don't hide each or one other, really create an ensemble ecosystem talking about World Heritage, physically and digitally.
Great, thank you. Talking about sites, we hopped over to visit Daisy at the Palace Museum. So should we take a look at that video?
Hello, this is Daisy Eo Wang, Deputy Director of the Hong Kong Palace Museum. I am looking after the museum's exhibition, publication, research, collection, conservation, and learning programs. How do we use technology? How do we combine art and science and technology to create a story that is impactful to our visitors? So that's what we're doing. We are bringing people together through art, through technology, to tell meaningful story to our visitors. There's a big debate today about digital technology versus real, actual objects in the museum world. Is a big topic. I'm a firm believer of the dialogue between these two. And number one, I don't think that even in 100 years that actual objects will completely be replaced by technology. But also, I don't believe a museum could survive without digital technology in the next few decades. So I think that most importantly is for these two parts to work together and help people to see things that you won't be able to see easily. At Hong Kong Palace Museum, we have done 33 digital projects. So just give you a few examples for one of our special exhibitions called Grand Gallop, the art and culture of horses. So this exhibition is looking at about 100 pieces from the Palace Museum, the Forbidden City. And also we are able to borrow from the Louvre Museum in Paris, 13 pieces depicting horses in world art and culture. So we mainly have Chinese horses in dialogue with world horses in this gallery. So you come to basically a projected screen with images of the horses, resting or walking around. They also track your movement. Basically, visitors will activate the whole installation. For example, if wave at the horse, get close, and the horse comes to you and do all kinds of tricks. It was tremendously popular with our visitors, and because they don't necessarily not only just appreciate the horses in art, they also feel like they are connected with the horses, in Hong Kong today and back to 18th century. Storytelling is also very important. So we want to use technology, we want to use artworks to tell stories that really sort of strike a deep chord in people. So it's really important. We have one exhibition telling the story of one day inside the Forbidden City and what was happening to the emperor, what was happening to his wife, what is happening to his mother. So we have an exhibition called From Dawn to Dusk, one day inside the Forbidden City. Museums' roles are changing. Previously, people think, your primary role is to serve as storage for antiquities, for old stuff, right? Valuable old stuff. But these days, visitors come to the museum for personal relevance, for emotional connection, for interaction. So it's really important that, you're not just looking at those things, right? You need to feel like you're contributing to the experience, you're part of the experience. So I think that is what exactly immersive technology can do. I don't think technology and objects of museums are contradictory. I think they're very complementary. And for people who work in the museum, we need to keep an open mind. It's really important. And we need to embrace new technology. And then at the end of the day, we're the producers of experiences, right? So how can we work even better with people immersed in technology? How can we even tell a better stories using technology is something we constantly have been thinking about.
So Daisy, you've had a lot of digital projects since you've launched just in July. Do you have a favorite?
I have to correct myself. I said 33. Actually, it's 53.
53.
Now
wow.
it's close to 60.
That's
Because
amazing.
we just opened a new exhibition.
Yes, yes, yes. Do you have a favorite in the midst of that?
Yes, I have many favorites, but also I want to go back to what my fellow panelists have been talking about. I think that when we think about technology, we're not just thinking about, what are really, like me, I have art history background. I'm not a technical person. So when people think about technology, sometimes they think about chasing the newest technology. But here, what I'm hearing is meaningful use of technology. So we start with a problem, like you, right? You start with a question, and you use technology to solve that issue, to improve the world, to make changes. I think that is really important. So at Hong Kong Palace Museum, we don't just chase technology. We start with research. We start with content building. So I want to mention that. But also I think it's really important that when we create a museum exhibition with real objects or with digital technology, it's really about creating an experience. That experience involves information, involves visitors, involves emotional connection, physical engagement, and to me, you asked me the question, what's your favorite? My favorite is one that really moved me emotionally. And the best technology, the best immersive experience actually open up a space for imagination. Because no matter how hard we work, we're only reconstructing or representing a fragment of history, a fragment of the past, a fragment of life today. But if you help people to open up their imagination, you give them very powerful tool. So I think that one of my own personal favorite is the one with a big roundel.
Oh, yeah.
And the reason for that is we engaged a very renowned Hong Kong-based but international media artist, Jeffrey Shaw. He worked with his team to tell the story of the dreamscape of an 18th century emperor called the Qianlong Emperor. This emperor was probably the most powerful person on earth back to the 18th century, but he also had a very tragic personal life. His favorite person, his beloved wife, died at the age of 36, and he was devastated for the rest of his life. He wrote 100 poems to commemorate her. He dreamed about her. We have poems, you know, he left, 100 poems he left. So this idea is, at the end of exhibition, supposedly 8 o'clock, he went to bed. He started dreaming about his wife. I think that also is quite important that we think about technology, we think about digital experience, but actually your person, your physicality actually affect how you perceive the world. So we actually design a couch. People don't just look at a screen. People actually lay down on a couch.
They lie down, yes,
just like a bed, right?
Yes, yes.
You dream, you don't stand there like this, right?
Yes.
You lay on a bed. And you know, you have to experience yourself. It's completely different when you look at this way and when you lay down and look up.
Somehow you relax. You know, I was there today.
People are tired because it's a huge exhibition space. So when I really lay down there, I really feel there's something magical happening in my brain and in my body. And I think that is really a deep kind of moving experience for me. So I think that digital project is not only immersive, but also help us to imagine what's happening in the emperor's brain. Of course, again, you guys are doing a lot of work really using digital data and construct, you know, the physical size and things. But I think, you know, in the same way that we are creating a kind of experience, but also deeply based on research. I think that is quite important. So I think we have to work together to balance all these components to create a compelling museum experience.
Yes, and actually we were talking about communities, you know, and engaging the community and how important it is around these cultural sites that you work with your partners on the ground, right, Yves?
Yes, we work a lot with a network of specialists in many countries and communities as well. And what is important is not only, you know, to bring this data, these sites, you know, to European country, but also to work, you know, with people to empower them to be to make them able, you know, to use this technique and this data to protect their heritage, but also to write a new story about their past. You know, it's amazing to see, for example, like Afghan people who rediscover, you know, the richness of their past, you know, through this technology. And I think this is very important thing also to think about the future of these people, of this country, you know, to be able to be conscious about, you know, the value of their past.
And I think it's so important, as you said, is experience versus exhibition, you know, and, you know, I guess when the exhibition is truly engaging, you know, you're going to get people to emotionally connect with the subject, you know, and you know, how important is it when you start the creative process to think about the visitor journey and what they feel, you know, and how you unveil this storytelling information to them?
Yeah, they're really a scenario of visit. We work hard on that, and the rhythm of the visit, and creating surprises, and willing people to move their body in the space, and to go in the corners to see what is in the corners and what is behind the wall. So really this physical attitude in a scenographic space to discover something is really stimulating, brainly stimulating and physically stimulating. So from what we have seen, people are more accurate. After that, they are concerned, and they will remember it because it's a full adventure, not only eyes adventure or something like that. It's really like they traveled somewhere physically also.
Yeah, and I think to Daisy's point about lying down to see that exhibition, because you are thinking of a dream, right? So it kind of reenacts that, you know, process. Yeah.
Right. And also I want to emphasize, you know, some of the behind the scene planning aspect. Most people come to museum or other art spaces thinking, you know, a bunch of artists working on this, and it's very artistic. Sure, we definitely have that kind of artistic license, but they may not be aware that these kind of experiences were heavily scripted, meaning that before we start the production, there is a process. We asked our project members, team members, really to crystallize. Number one, how do you want people to think about this? Okay, how do you want people to feel about this? And how do you want people to do? What do you want people to do? So basically, we are very visitor-centric museum, and we design this experience in a very intentional way. That's how, those outcomes are not accidental.
Right.
We basically have a formula, of course, at the same time allowing artistic licensing there. So I think that is what you said is really, really critical because it's experience. Without the visitors, without them being part of that experience, you cannot have a successful museum exhibition.
Yes, it is a journey for the visitors. And Eve, do you want to share with us some of your projects and exhibitions that has driven and triggered an action and a change?
Yes, I think I wanted to say that, the new thing now with this technology, we can deal with landscapes. So we can create a journey through space, through time, and bring, the body of the people inside like a life-size site and life-size architecture, so it's more engaging for the people. And this possibility of recreation is something really new. I mean, like 5 years before, it wasn't possible to think like that. So it's a completely new way of thinking, the museum itself and the contextualization of the object, because now we can bring, to the object, the landscape that were around the object before. So this connection is something really, really, really new, and I think for the future of the museography, it should be really, really important. And so then this impact for us is very, very important, and is the reason why we involve ourselves in exhibition now. It's the most efficient way to raise the awareness of people about some contemporary issue on this disappearance of our past all over the world. And I think it's the best, this kind of event is very, very efficient also to convince political leaders to act efficiently, to preserve this past. And as Sylvain said, the first exhibition was commissioned by the presidency, and we have a very important time, in many exhibitions with these leaders to talk about the importance of taking care about this heritage. So I think the struggle is continuing in another way. It's not, not only on the field, but also, on this specific event.
It definitely is a new era of exhibitions with all of this, innovation and technology, isn't it?
Yeah, and we are still, for example, with Iconem, as we have many projects also going on, we really are building a collection of experiences. We try things to improve, to work with new tools which appeared in the meantime. And so we don't have a perfect model of exhibition. We are still exploring, but we are getting more aware about what works also with the public, individual, collective. And so we are refining the systems we propose and trying to bring more and more emotions, because this is a very powerful way of making people being curious, understand, love, and care. This is really a full process, and I think we are just at the beginning of it, because this dialogue in between real objects and digital also is a start, and I think it could be really, really powerful if, again, there is a very strong, meaningful idea behind it.
And also, do you keep, touring? Because a lot of these exhibitions are touring. Do you have that in mind when you're designing these exhibitions, whether it's for the museum or whether it's for the heritage sites?
Yeah, for example, several exhibitions we have shown, both of us are traveling, or have been traveling, or will be traveling soon. And that's interesting because that's even easier to travel than a 400 pieces exhibition, obviously, also because of the constraints of the landings. And it can be also duplicated at the same time in many places. So depending on the topic, it can have a lot of impact on worldwide. And so I think this touring or duplicating system is also something which makes the project economically possible, because this is also one issue of those kind of projects. It's not always cheaper than a project with many objects. It's another cost coming from another place. So also it makes it possible to travel. So they are the both interest to impact more and more people and to make it economically possible.
And for the museum, do you tour any of your exhibitions? Is that something you think about when you're creating these exhibitions in the Palace Museum?
For now, the majority of our digital elements are created as part of the exhibition, meaning that the majority of exhibition have both physical and digital experiences in a way that they're complementary and in a way that digital elements enhance the experiences. But our foundation still are real objects. I'm sure if I tell my colleagues now starting from now, we're going to work with two of you. Our exhibition managers will be extremely happy. Traveling physical, very, very valuable objects around the world.
Yes.
There's a lot of logistic concerns, but like you said, it's also quite expensive. Sometimes can be also logistically challenging to do digital projects because involves a lot of equipment, technology. Sometimes there are compatibility issues. However, I think that in the future, definitely this is something we will also love to develop further, and potentially having even digital exhibition traveling to Hong Kong Palace Museum, or we produce some experiences and travel out as well.
That's great. And I think the more you tour this exhibition, the more the information and knowledge is shared and amplified, right? We have 2 minutes left. Anything you want to add, about, this new era of immersive exhibitions?
I think from our side, exhibition is also becoming a way to finance, mission on the ground. And I think we can find like a balance, an economic model that help us also to preserve heritage on the ground. So this is also valuable to us,
Yes, actually, it's a revenue-generating exhibition that also helps the cause, doesn't it?
And also on every project we have been working on together, the data is really so precise and so rich that it leads to research and to public audience that I like very much also, because it has multiple impacts and multiple rentability, if we can say that. So this is also something very specific about what ICONM is doing, because sites are difficultly accessible or every reason. And I like the fact that this is for many kind of public, including the researchers.
And you were saying, Eve, that hundreds of these cultural sites are just disappearing, right? And you're operating in 40 different countries.
It's very sad to see. I'm just coming from Pakistan, I was witnessing, the floods destroying, direct impact of climate change on cultural heritage sites. So we need to focus, to develop help, to these people. And I think this is a really important point we have to keep in mind.
And thanks for bringing light to this, And I think we are, almost out of time. So I would like to thank Eve and Savan and Daisy for joining us today. And thank you all in the audience.
Thank you, Lavina.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you to our moderator and speakers. What a captivating exchange. I'm sure going to the museum will be so much more exciting.
That's true, and this really changed how I look at heritage and history. So mind-boggling.
Well, don't go anywhere, because after the break, we're going to be diving into topics about art, technology, and creative digitalization. Stay tuned.